Well, hello. We are back again, and thank you so much for joining us. What's Good with John and Joyce, available on all streaming platforms. What's Good with John and Joyce is sponsored by Woodwinds Wedding and Special Events venue in Brantford, Connecticut, and Silvio's award-winning Italian sauces, which you can buy anytime online at silviosauces.com. That's silviosauces.com. We'd like to thank our sponsor, New England Collision. From the time they pick up the phone and receive your initial call until the time they deliver your repaired vehicle back to you, your satisfaction and safety is their number one priority. New England Collision. And they were established back in 1996. So relax. It was just an accident. Go to necollision.com. With me, my co-host, my friend of a long time. We go way back. Long time ago. Joyce Logan. Joyce, good to see you.
Oh, it's always good to see you. This is my therapy.
Oh,
me too. I'm glad that we get to help others with our positive podcast.
Because it helps us too.
Yes. Yeah, it does, because it reminds us of what's good.
Yeah.
And there's so many things in the world that is good, but ironically, we are speaking about grief. We're continuing the talk we have with Reverend Frederick Marotti.
Yeah, he was awesome.
About grief, because we all go through it. And you were sharing a story with me about your first experience with grief was your hamster.
Don't laugh. You've gone through it too, okay?
Yes, and he was 30 years old.
I was 30 years old. I lost my hamster. Oh, boy. See, you got to be able to laugh. I know we're talking about grief, but the thing is, we got to be able to laugh. It's great therapy. But, I remember being like 3, 4, 5 years old and having a hamster, and they only lived like 2 weeks anyway, right? And this poor thing.
Maybe a little longer.
Maybe a month or two. But
take care of it.
But this poor thing just passed away, and I was beside myself. But to my mom and dad's credit, they, didn't, make fun of me or try to diminish it. Mm-hmm. And they consoled me, and that meant a lot to me at the time. Because, I've never had children of my own, but I've had a gazillion animals over the years. And every time one of them passes and goes to animal heaven, I've been like beside myself, Joyce. I cry like a baby.
Right.
I really have, And
I understand that. We should never diminish grief in children.
No.
Like with a pet or anything like that, because there is like a rhythm, I call it, to grief. And we all have our own basic rhythm to that. And sometimes it's anger initially, depression and anger. And then where do you end up? Well, the good thing is to end up at acceptance.
Yes.
And when you accept it, and then you look back on it, and Reverend Maratti's brought up a very good point about guilt. Guilt is the one that sticks with a lot of people.
What could I have done? Did I do this wrong? Should I have checked on this? Should I have gone to the doctor? I know we do that. Woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? And that's natural.
What shocked me when my mom died is that I was very close to my mother, and we did everything together, and I was with her when she had her stroke. We were planning on what we were doing for Thanksgiving, and then I was making her a sandwich, and she wasn't answering me. It's like, Mom, do you want tomato on this? Like, Mom. And she was like right in a stroke. So that was a month-long journey then, before she passed. And I would lay in hospice bed with her and hug her and talk to her. And the moment she passed, do you know, I shocked myself with the thought of, oh my gosh, I should have picked her up more. I drove by and I was going to the store and I thought I didn't want to pick her up because I didn't want to slow down. Why didn't I pick her up? Why didn't I go there? I shocked myself with that immediate, it was like knee-jerk reaction that, I should have done this. I had to really remind myself that, no, I did a lot. Yeah. I did all that I could. I didn't know this was going to happen.
You're human. You're human.
Yeah, but we don't want to we can't live with always taking care of that one person. What if they die? What if they die? What if they die? So you just do the best you can, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think about my mom who passed away back in 21, and my mom was my first best friend. And we would communicate every day on the phone. I would call her, Mom, guess what happened? I love to share every single life instance with Mom.
Right.
Loved it. I remember when she passed on, I would look at the phone, and I want to call her. and then I
Yeah.
would call that number just to hear her voice.
Yeah.
And thank goodness, Joyce, I still have many of her messages on my phone still. So
Yeah.
now and then I might go back and listen to it, and she would always, honey, I love you, and we just had such a great relationship. But I would go do the same thing you did. Maybe I should have visited her a little bit more often. Was I too busy? Did this and that, and I just said, come on, I got to cut myself some slack here.
Yeah. Yes.
I
yes.
loved Mom. She knew that, and she was so supportive. We loved each other, and Mom is in a great place right now.
Hmm. I found something online by Anonymous, and I added to it. And it says, grief may never fully leave us, but it does transform over time. And it does. It transforms into different ways of looking at it, different ways of appreciating. And it's not a place to live forever, but a passage to walk through. When you're ready, allow gratitude to gently take up that space. And I love that sentence because gratitude is what heals everything.
Grateful that person was in your life.
Yes.
Grateful that you had a chance to get to know that person, even though their life may have been cut a little bit shorter than we like. God has the final say when He's ready to call us home. We go. But in the meantime, I think a lesson to be learned in so many ways, Joyce, is just be the best person you could be each and every day. Like, Reverend Frederick said in the last episode, I said, any final words? He said, just be kind.
Just be kind.
Be kind.
That was the best ending
Please
ever.
be kind.
Yes.
This courtesy of a dear friend of ours, Ken Engelman.
Yes.
Thank you, Ken.
So love
kind.
never ends. It simply shifts with time. The heart learns to hold both the sorrow and the blessing. And that is it.
Wow.
When you focus on that, the pain will start to lessen. But then people get afraid of, I'll forget them. What if I forget them? What if I forget the sound of their voice? What if I forget, what they looked like? It's like, no, when you get panicky about something, you tend to block things out. But if you just relax and think about it, you will hear it. And even if you don't, you know it.
Now, you lost your husband, Wayne.
Yes.
I lost my first wife, Darcy. What do you remember about Wayne? Do you remember his voice at all, or the sound of his voice?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah.
Those two. Okay.
I usually do, because I think even my sons, remind me. But he always had a nickname for me, so I could almost hear him, calling me. And I dream about him a lot. He just shows up. Sometimes he's just sitting in a corner. Sometimes he's driving the car, and I'm in the back.
But they're all
seat.
pleasant?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, great.
No, they're all really, really, really great. So, sometimes, I talk to him even with laughter. It'll be like, Wayne, why did you leave me with this? Get back here.
Yeah.
But I don't say it like why did you leave me? It's just like when I get frustrated about something that he could have handled, and I just really I'm overload. So I'll just say, get back here and take care of this. Why'd you leave me?
Right.
And then I have a picture of my mother by her urn. So when I get dressed in the morning, I say, I love you, Mom. So I know they're around. I know they're not gone. I just feel that even if I didn't believe, so let's say you're not a believer, and let's say you don't believe in an afterlife, then believe in what they left you.
Yes.
Believe in the love they gave you. If you miss them that deeply, you must have loved them that deeply. What a gift that is.
Right.
That is a gift, to be able to love one so deeply that it hurts when they left.
How long did it take you to really make the transition from that grief in the beginning to just being okay with it? And quite frankly, you've thrived, Joyce, in so many ways. You continue to go out there and do amazing things in this world. You work hard. You're a great mom. You're a great friend to so many people. You've been a great friend to me.
Thank you.
But when was that kind of transition from?
Well, I did have the long goodbye.
Okay.
It was 8 years. And I
8 years.
think when we first got the diagnosis, I think of Alzheimer's. And it was he was in his later 60s, and he was like 10 years older than me. And it was, I don't think he fully comprehended that. That's when it took me to my knees, because I knew what was going to happen, and he didn't really. So I had this long goodbye, and I reached out to someone my doctor recommended, and it was a wonderful therapist who dealt in geriatrics. And I felt if he dealt with geriatrics, then he's gone through speaking to family members that, with Alzheimer's. And he gave me wonderful tips, because there were a lot of things I was doing wrong. And I think many people who are dealing with people with Alzheimer's in the beginning may be doing that frustrates you. Very hard on the people that are dealing with people with Alzheimer's.
And also to kind of like expand upon that, how many times do people call up and ask about that person, but they never ask about how you are doing?
Yeah, like 99% of the time.
Right?
Yeah.
That's why it's so important if somebody's going through something, realize they're the caretaker in many cases, but never forget to ask how they're doing too, because too many times they're forgotten in this.
Right. No, the whole focus, was on him. And I hear people doing that now who are dealing with people with Alzheimer's, and I'll say to them, this is what I learned. Don't keep saying, remember, Mom? Or remember, Dad? Here's pictures. Remember we did? I just told you that. Don't you remember? That is not only frustrating on you, but it's making them very confused. So they sometimes begin to say yes. Yes, they do. So, John, I would have people, family members, like come over to the house and say, see, he remembers me, because Wayne would just nod. And you know him, he was very good-hearted, smiley, good-natured person.
Man. Love him.
So that good nature, thankfully for me, stayed throughout his last days. And they would almost leave like, I don't know what she's talking about. He knows everything. And he would look at me and I would say, wasn't that nice that so-and-so visited? And he'd say, who's so-and-so? I said, the person that was just here. He said, I don't know what you mean. So what they didn't know, as soon as they walked out of that room, he had no idea who they were. But I was getting frustrated because they weren't getting that. And they were thinking, Joyce is fine. He's fine. He knows, but he knew nothing. He didn't know where the bathroom was. He didn't know how to do anything. So the last year, when you said that I really grew from this, John, was the last year of his life. Now, COVID pretty much just began. And hospice, I did get hospice to come in, but they came in for 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. That left me alone with him for 22 hours a day. And I rarely got more than 3 hours sleep because he had to be cleaned and he had to be, get back into bed. And sometimes, even with the railings on the bed, he jumped over the railings. And then they had a catheter in him. And then he ripped out the catheter and was standing in the kitchen in the middle of the night and a poodle of like blackish blood. It was, the last 8 months were exhausting, but the last 8 months became exhilarating for me at the same time, because at my darkest time, that's when I sat outside, even wintertime. And my grandson still reminds me of that. He said, I always thought you were crazy sitting out in the snow and just like talking to God.
Right.
And I said, I had to, or I would break. And then it was like the clouds parted. And as if God were saying to me in my mind, look up. Look up. And it was like almost seeing the curvature of the earth. This was a sunny, blue sky day. And he said, I've given you all of this. And I had these flashbacks because I used to put myself down that I was a teenage mother. I used to put myself down growing up. He has a lot of things. And he said, you gave birth. A lot of women can't give birth. You raised children. You loved deeply. You've had a great life. And Wayne was a great husband to you. Aren't you blessed? Aren't you blessed? It was like, it's
like
hard to put it into words.
Yeah.
It really was an epiphany. But with that came forgiveness. And that's where the magic happened. There were a couple of people in my life that I had a very hard time with. And if I could join in on the negativity about a couple of people, I join in because they had been very hurtful. I came in and I sat on my bed, and both those people, I said, I forgive you. I don't know what your life was like. I never walked in your shoes, but I'm going to send you love, and I forgive you. And 48 hours later, or maybe sooner, I may have told this story before, but it's still mind-blowing to me, that one person who hadn't been in touch with us for over 3 years sent me an email saying, I don't know why we don't speak, but it's probably my fault. And I want to know if we can get together. And I welcomed that person into our home at Christmas time. We hugged. We never spoke about the past. And we're great now. In fact, if somebody says something negative about them, it just slides off of me. There's not an ounce in me that wants to engage.
Like a cleansing.
It had happened with the second person also.
Wow.
During COVID, they brought me over toiletries and different things that I hadn't seen them in 15 years. And those were the two people that I asked, I forgave. I didn't even ask God for that, but it was in the moment of being appreciative of my life.
Let's say gratitude is riches.
Oh my God.
So I believe divine intervention.
It was definitely divine intervention. And that brought me to a deeper level of faith, of love, forgiveness, gratitude. But because I also went through this for 8 years, I am so sympathetic to people going through it on a level that I couldn't have been before, because I have walked in those shoes. Yes. And now I know I don't preach about it like the stories I'm telling now. I may not say any of that to them initially, but I listen. And I offer some advice about maybe what to do for themselves. And
that's a good idea, because you want to keep yourself healthy as well. Because
got to put your oxygen mask on first.
Right. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others. That's a great analogy.
Yeah. So that's really brought me to a new level of dealing with what I'm dealing with at home with my son that's in the spectrum, my grandson that's in the spectrum. To be like, many times I would like to be left alone, but they're talking to me and they're very animated, which they're not with the public as much. And I just remind myself, and I put down whatever I'm doing, and I just listen to them. And I remind myself how grateful I am to have these beautiful souls in my life. Right. That really do bring me joy. They bring me a lot of work at times, because I'm the only driver in the house, really, sure. Except for my other son, Tim, who's been very helpful. But it just gives you a new understanding. And what hurts you the most, you can help other people. Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing? Take our pain and don't live in the pain, though. Remember the good times. Don't beat yourself up like I could have said, oh, why didn't I get Wayne diagnosed earlier? but it wouldn't have changed the outcome anyway. It just, I just accepted it.
How do you think you came out? What made you different from the previous 8 years to when you came out? How did you change as a person after this, after Wayne?
I became very mindful of everything good around me. Very mindful. That instead of saying, I have a house with a mortgage, I said, I have a house. I have a house. I have a house to take care of. Aren't I blessed that I have that? It made me so aware, John, of to look at the blessings of friends in my life, to not be critical of people. And, it's hard not to be judgmental. And I mean, we all are in some way.
Sure.
You may look at what someone's wearing and say that. So I can watch like all the reality shows, let's say the Housewives of Beverly Hills or that. And some of them would make me really angry. Now they would, because of the way they treated somebody.
Right.
And so now I look at it as like I'm in school and I'm looking at this like they're all good people in their own way. I'm going to watch this without judgment. I'm going to watch Big Brother and not root for just this one person to win. I'm going to root for everybody to have a chance. So
it's a very mature attitude.
It expanded me that way. So I look at everything almost like my own personal science experiment.
Yeah, right. Like your own petri dish.
Yes. Can I do this?
Right.
Can I listen to this newscast or this person and do this? And if I can't, I turn it off. Right. Because I don't need that. It's just something that I'm
if you start finding anger or something welling up inside, it's not worth it.
No, I just changed my focus. Because I know as a hypnotherapist and going through hypnotherapy because of anxiety and all that, it's only a thought away of what you really want. You can shift your thoughts from, isn't this horrible, to maybe you say, isn't this interesting?
Right.
Well, this is challenging right now. Not like, oh my God, this is so awful. No, I'm going through a bit of a challenge.
And I love that word, rather than we have a problem, say a challenge.
Yeah.
Right? Rather than say like, I can't do this. How can we do this? Or like you said about the house, I have a house.
Yes.
I think about the mortgage. I'm not making enough money here. Well, if you're making over $30,000 a year here in this country, you're in the top 80% globally.
Right.
And think about that.
Right.
So it's all about perspective, mind shifts, focusing again on gratitude.
Yes.
Gratitude.
Gratitude and appreciation for what you do have. And I don't care if it's just the rug you like in your house or a pet or whatever it is, focus on that.
Right. When I wake up in the morning and I'm going out and having my coffee and I look in the back and I see the mourning doves and the cardinals and I just focus and, I just say, wow, I'm just mad. I love birds.
Yes.
And I just focus on nature and I look at the trees and I think about if they could talk,
right.
the things they've been through over the years with weather and everything else and how they're still standing.
Yeah.
It's kind of a metaphor for life.
Yeah, it really
in so many ways, and just trying to be a lot more aware as they get older, and just have my senses heightened more. But again, you have to be intentional about that.
You do have to be intentional, and I watch myself like a hawk. So if I feel like I'm getting off, that road,
drifting,
I don't let it go long at all. I pull myself right back in. And
it's easy to get caught in the drama.
Oh my God.
So much drama out there.
Especially because of social media.
Right.
Even though most of the people I have, and I have a lot of people on Facebook, I try to handpick the ones that are very positive. But if someone shows up and they're not, bye-bye. It's just because I am taking care of myself. And I have to do that. And, so whether they like it or not, it's just, I'm not saying anything bad about them.
Right.
I'm not going to respond. I just let it go.
You can't please everyone no matter what, no matter what you do in life. And you really just have to sometimes let go and let God.
Yes.
Let go and let God. Just let them go. Pray for them.
Right.
right? And move on.
So let me give you a little analogy of what happened in my life last night. That shows you what happens when
Okay.
you're not at ease.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, should I even say this? This
A
is
lack
so
of ease.
embarrassing. So my son, if there's a bug in the house, it could be a wasp, it could be a spider, whatever, he gently gets it out. He may put a cup on the wall and he puts a thin piece of paper.
Oh, boy, that sounds familiar.
And does it?
Yes. Because I do the same thing. I don't want to kill anything.
Yes.
And my wife thinks I'm nuts. She says, get it out of here. The spider. And the thing is, I admit, I like spiders.
Yeah, well,
And I like
well,
bees.
good.
and
I
everything.
just don't want them in my bed.
Exactly. That's what Patty says. Same thing.
I don't want them crawling up my nose or in my ears.
Or if I say like a little mouse or something like that, I'm going to put a cup and I'm going to put it over the mouse and put him outside. They'll probably end up coming back in anyway. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I can relate to that.
And I've done that too. And but there was something in my room last night. I wasn't sure what it was, but I'm looking at my grandson standing at my doorway, and he says, "What's that?" And I says, "What's what?" He says, "On your lamp." And I turned and looked. It was the ugliest looking. I don't know what it was. Well, I was sitting there with the ice pack on my back because my doctor said 3 times a day use the ice pack, and I'm just sitting there calm. I just, I got up, I knocked over the lamp, I knocked over all the books next to me. It landed on my TV. I took a towel. I was like swatting it. He said, my grandson says, "You're going to break the TV." My room, I cut myself on I had some.
And none of this was documented?
Oh, he said, "I wish my phone were on."
Oh, yeah.
This. He said, "You're so relaxed in life about things." So now I'm bleeding from my finger because I punctured it on something that was sticking in a mug where I have pens and pencils
Sure.
and things like that. So I put a puncture hole in my finger. I've got blood everywhere. This thing is flying around, and I finally get a towel and I dive on top of it and I wrap it up and I throw it out the back. And I'm looking at my room. My room is trashed.
It sounds like a skit on Saturday Night Live.
Oh, it was.
Right?
But had I called if I just went to my son's room, I think he was sleeping, and I said to him, "Could you come in here for a minute?" He would have gently,
Sure.
It's like they know.
Yeah.
He won't kill any kind of bug, a moth, nothing. He just gently I wanted to get it out, but the way I did it.
But then you never would have experienced all that drama.
Well, that's what I mean. Drama's not good.
No.
Not good, because I was exhausted after that. And then I had to wash my hand, kept putting Neosporin on, and
Right.
hoping I didn't get an infection because it was like a rusty end of a safety pin.
Yep.
And it's like, what not to do in a crisis. And
That's
I
a whole
did it
episode.
all.
Maybe we'll have to do that. What not to do on What's Good with John and Joyce. What's not good? Yeah.
So when somebody even passes, there are people who react that way.
Yes.
And maybe it's good to wail it out. I don't know. But whatever you need to do, but don't get stuck in it.
Right.
I think that is the message for today. Find things you're grateful for. Be very grateful they were in your life.
Yes.
And get busy. Help others.
That's the whole point.
Talk to them.
That is so important. Whenever you're feeling down or feeling stressed in your life, go out there and do something good for someone else. Like we said in the previous episode, it's amazing how that will uplift not just them, but uplift you in your situation as well.
Yes, 100%. And you'll see that you'll feel better and you'll be helping somebody else. But focus on, appreciate everything around you, everything. And don't feel guilty. Everyone feels guilty. You're not alone with that. Everyone has those fleeting thoughts when something happens. And just know that you could not control it unless you murdered the person. But you could not.
All right.
In most things that happen in natural way,
Right.
you have no control over that. And it's being resilient and accepting.
Mm-hmm.
That those two words alone will get you through things.
And I know it's easier said than done, because some of you who are watching right now might be going through a really tough situation and said, yeah, okay, I'm not quite there yet, but everybody handles grief different, and there are different time frames. And we just pray that you get the grace you need and the help you need and the support system around you. And we want to let you know that Joyce and I and all of us here at What's Good with John and Joyce are praying for you and your family as well. And we just
yes, we do.
We just believe in our hearts that better days are ahead. Being the optimists that we are.
Yes.
Just honor those who went before you by the way you live your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll be back again with another edition of What's Good with John and Joyce, available on all streaming platforms. We appreciate you. We appreciate your family and friends. And thank you so much for making us a part of your day, your night. And many blessings to you and your family.
Thank you.
Till next time. Bye.
We love you all.